D. Early factory system and the formation of a capitalist economy. Introduction. The emergence of the factory system during the Industrial Revolution marked a turning point in global economic history. As technological innovation transformed modes of production, it also laid the foundations for the modern capitalist economy. The shift from manual labor and cottage industries to mechanized, centralized production revolutionized labor relations, economic organization, and the global flow of goods and capital. This essay explores the evolution of the early factory system and its crucial role in shaping capitalist economies during the 18th and 19th centuries. 1. Origins of the factory system. 1.1 Pre-industrial production. Before the Industrial Revolution, most production was based on domestic systems, also known as cottage industries. Artisans or families produced goods in their homes or small workshops, using simple tools and relying heavily on manual labor. This mode of production, though decentralized and flexible, was inefficient for large-scale output and limited by inconsistent quality and productivity. 1.2 Technological innovation. The factory system emerged in the late 18th century, driven by key technological innovations: textile machinery, the spinning jenny, 1764, water frame, 1769, and power loom. 1785 enabled rapid, large-scale textile production, steam engine perfected by James Watt. In the 1770s, the steam engine revolutionized power generation, freeing factories from reliance on water power. Iron and coal advancements in smelting techniques and coal mining enabled cheaper, more durable machinery and infrastructure. These innovations converged to make centralized production not only possible, but also economically advantageous. 2. Key features of the early factory system. 2.1 Centralized production. Factories centralized production under one roof. This spatial organization allowed for better supervision, standardization, and use of large machines that were unsuitable for homes or small workshops. 2.2 Division of labor. Inspired by Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, 1776, the factory system implemented the principle of division of labor. Each worker performed a specific, repetitive task in the production process, which enhanced efficiency but also de-skilled labor. 2.3 Time discipline. The factory introduced a new sense of time discipline. Unlike agrarian labor that followed natural rhythms, factory work required punctuality, fixed hours, and productivity monitoring changes that transformed workers' relationship with time and labor. 2.4 Wage labor. The rise of factories institutionalized wage labor as workers sold their labor power for hourly or daily wages. This marked a shift from self-employment or household production to dependence on employers and market forces. 3. Social and economic impacts. 3.1 Urbanization. Factories concentrated labor in urban centers. Cities like Manchester and Birmingham in England grew rapidly, drawing rural populations seeking employment. However, this urban boom also brought challenges such as overcrowding, poor sanitation, and harsh living conditions. 3.2 Class formation. The factory system accelerated the development of class divisions. Industrial capitalist factory owners accumulated capital by investing in machinery, hiring labor, and extracting surplus value. Working-class proletariat factory workers became a distinct social class, often laboring in poor conditions for meager wages with little social mobility. This class dynamic is central to Marxist critiques of capitalism. 3.3 Women and children in labor. Factories employed large numbers of women and children due to their lower wage demands. Although it provided income, this also led to exploitation, health hazards, and demands for labor reform. 3.4 Labor movements. The dehumanizing conditions of factory labor prompted the rise of labor movements and early trade unions. Strikes, protests, and later legislative reforms emerged to address worker exploitation and push for rights, like the 10-hour workday and child labor laws. 4. The factory system and capitalist development. 4.1 Capital accumulation. Factories enabled rapid capital accumulation. Profits were reinvested into expanding production, innovating machinery, or penetrating new markets, reinforcing the capitalist cycle of growth through reinvestment and innovation. 4.2 Commodification of labor and goods. The factory system commodified both labor and products. Workers became units of productive value, and goods were produced not for use by the producers themselves, but for sale in broader markets. 4.3 Expansion of markets. Mass production created surplus goods, which spurred the search for new markets, both domestic and international. This expansion was a catalyst for imperialism, as industrial nations sought raw materials and outlets for their manufactured goods. 4.4 Financial institutions. The need to finance factory construction, acquire raw materials, and manage payroll led to the growth of modern banking and credit systems. Capitalist economies became increasingly dependent on complex financial infrastructure. 5. Global spread and variations. 5.1 Britain as the industrial leader. Britain led the factory system's development, benefiting from abundant coal, a stable political environment, colonial resources, and a robust transportation network. By the mid-19th century, it was known as the workshop of the world. 5.2 Continental Europe and the United States. France and Germany industrialized more slowly due to political instability and fragmented markets, but caught up by the late 19th century. The United States adopted the factory system quickly, especially in the Northeast. Innovations like interchangeable parts and assembly lines in the 19th and early 20th centuries further boosted productivity. 5.3 Late industrialization and global inequality. Many regions, particularly in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, were integrated into the capitalist economy, not as industrial powers, but as sources of raw materials and labor. This entrenched global economic inequalities that persist today. 6. Critiques and consequences. 6.1 Environmental degradation. Factory-based capitalism relied on intensive resource extraction and fossil fuels, leading to widespread environmental degradation, a legacy that still challenges contemporary economies. 6.2 Alienation and human cost. Marx argued that the factory system alienated workers from their labor, the products they made, and their fellow workers. The monotony and pace of factory labor contrasted starkly with earlier artisanal or agricultural work. 6.3 Inequality. Capitalist economies fueled by factories created vast disparities in wealth and power. While factory owners amassed fortunes, many workers lived in poverty, sparking social unrest and the rise of socialist ideologies. 7. Legacy and transformation. The early factory system laid the groundwork for the modern industrial economy. Even as 21st century production shifts toward automation, digitalization, and global outsourcing, the core capitalist principles, born from the factory, system private ownership, profit motive, wage labor, and market competition remain foundational. Contemporary debates over fair wages, automation, labor rights, and sustainability are all rooted in issues introduced during the early factory era. Understanding the rise of the factory system helps us grasp the structure of today's economic systems and the ongoing challenges of balancing growth with equity and sustainability. Conclusion. The early factory system was more than a technological revolution. It was a profound transformation of economic and social life that underpinned the rise of capitalism. By centralizing production, reshaping labor, and catalyzing capital accumulation, factories became the engines of economic change. Though they improved productivity and helped lift economies into the modern age, they also introduced complex social problems from exploitation to inequality. The legacy of the factory system continues to shape the trajectory of global capitalism today, making its study essential for understanding both historical and contemporary economic dynamics.